We're here to empower high-income earners to gain back control of your time through financial independence and stop trading your time for money and start letting your money work harder for you.
And hey, if you want to meet other high-income earners on their FIRE journey, join our High Income Earners FIRE Facebook group. Every month, we'll have guest speakers and we'll share about what our team is currently working on and allow you to share what you are working on with other high-income earners.
Welcome back to the High Income Earners FIRE podcast. Today, I'm with my host, Aline Prack. My name is Cody Ye. Today, we have the pleasure to interview Quentin D'Souza. He's father of real estate investing, and he has been educating a lot of real estate investors over the years. And outside of the real estate, he's helping a lot of real estate investors or any other high income earners to reach their own version of FIRE in his own way. Quentin is a good teacher, almost a professor, and he's always willing to share the knowledge he has. So welcome, Quentin.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that awesome introduction, Cody.
Awesome.
So we're going to throw in the first question for you is, what are your three main vehicles that you have been able to build up your income?
So just a little bit of background. I was a teacher for a long time, for 20 years. I have a master's in ed. And in 2014, I left teaching. I was able to replace my income from my real estate income. So that's how I started, with passive income from my real estate portfolio, about probably 20 buy and hold properties from 1 to 6 units. So that's one part of it. The other part of it would be refinancing those properties. And then as I've grown, I've focused more on apartment buildings since about 2015, started with 7, 11, it kept growing. Now we're closing on a 94 unit in June. I've close to 400 units, about 90 million in assets. And a majority of that I own 50% of. Some of it I own 100%. And the least I own is a 25% of the whole asset. So a lot of my income comes from my Canadian real estate portfolio, from cash flow, and then from refinances. I typically work on repositioning those assets. I also have US income. So I have a small portfolio of properties in Tampa, just like 4 properties that provide some income. I have some LP investments in the US. I'm a key partner in the US, and I also GP in the US. But again, just small percentages in those type of deals, working to grow that.
So I want to ask really quick, how did you actually build up your portfolio on the real estate side first to be able to replace your income? Because I'm guessing it wasn't overnight that you were able to be like, hey, my real estate portfolio now outperforms my active income.
Yeah, so I started in 2004. In 2008, I really started to scale 3-4 properties. Back then, we could do like 100% financing. That got eliminated with craziness in 2008, and wanted to figure out how I could continue to do that. So I thought I had discovered the BRRRR strategy, and I called it buy, fix, refinance, and rent. It's only a couple of years ago that it was rebranded by Bigger Pockets, right? But I was doing that. I talked to some mortgage brokers. I talked to realtors, tried to figure out how to buy a property, needed work, refinanced my funds out of it, and then held the property. So I started to do that. And then partners, people that I knew who asked me, like, what are you doing? And I explained the process. They were interested in it. So I started to pick up partners in 2009 and just continued to grow from there. So I had, and by using that strategy and recycling funds and also taking on partners, I was able to scale faster. And then I could have quit my job in 2013, but I kind of banked my income for a year because I had 2 small kids at the time too, right? So they were probably like 5 and 2 or something like that. And my wife was like, okay, like I showed her, look, I'm banking the paycheck from the job and we're just using the income from the real estate portfolio. And I did it for a whole year. And then, funny enough, after I quit my job, a month later, 1 property, and it made like 100K. And it was like the same as like more than I made in income in the last year. So, but that's what happened.
I want to ask really quick, if you don't mind, because I also have 2 kids myself, and going from a stable job where you're banking and you know income is going to come every single day, and transitioning over to entrepreneurship where now you're working for it? How did that transition look like for you? And what were some of the fears that you had?
Well, I guess I wasn't afraid of failure. I'm a hard worker. I would outwork anybody. That's how I was able to do the things. I was going to be a school principal. They wanted me in administration because I was a hard worker, right? And the difference is when I started to work for myself, I even worked harder. So it wasn't an option for me. But what I learned after the first year is I didn't want it to be a job. I wanted to be a business. And that's when I stopped doing some of the active components of it. And I really focused on some of the business aspects of it so I could spend more time with my kids. It was a lot of mindset shift for sure. And I've got a lot of help. Like I joined the entrepreneur organization. I've been to a lot of masterminds. In 2008, I started a group called Durham REI because I didn't have any peers. I created my own peer group. And I didn't know anybody else who was investing, right? So all of those things kind of helped to shift my mindset because I was presenting at that group and I was still working, right? And it took over that period of time to get me to that point 5 years later where I was able to quit my job. And I got a little ring on my finger to remind me of 2014 when I stopped working. I turned 40.
Yeah, I think Aline can definitely really asking that question from her heart. And Aline's probably going that phase. Maybe Aline's already ready. I think the leap of faith thing, and then you really touch on that, right? Because not everyone started with 90 million in asset.
I didn't. I started with
Yeah.
five, like a line of credit. That's all I started with, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we saved $5,000. And my wife was like, what are you doing with it? Right. And now that's totally different now. But yeah, I really do believe it's a lot about up here than anything else. Mindset is really a key. And I always thought at the beginning, especially when I was an employee, I thought it was kind of like foo-foo, like, it's not, what is this stuff? Mindset. It's been the difference between me. Like last year, I closed on a $36 million asset, right? Which was a 7 apartment building complex. It was a big deal, but the difference for me was mindset. It was just adding a zero onto all the other deals I did before. And if you can add a zero on, that's a big mindset shift. So it's definitely a mindset changes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree with that. And follow-up question to that, what helped change your mindset? Or how did you get into that mindset to think bigger?
I read a lot of books, listened to a lot of audiobooks at the time. There wasn't really there weren't as many as you might think at that time. It's great that you have podcasts like this that you could listen to. So it was a lot of learning. I followed Strategic Coach too. Once I had quit my job, I joined Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, great program. Helped again for a mindset shift. Hanging out with other entrepreneurs and other people who are moving in the same direction as you is really helpful. Creating that group was really helpful because they were all moving in the same direction, and that's always useful. So all of those kind of pieces together helped.
So with someone like yourself who didn't come overnight, been working out for almost 20 years, what is your version of fire right now at this point? If someone's around your age, around your situation, what is your version of fire with 2 kids, with what you have right now? What's that version of fire?
I already achieved that in 2014, right? So my fire was 8 years ago. Which was awesome. And I think more and more it evolves over time. I do a lot of long-term planning. So I have like 10-year goals, and I look at, a lot of different, like the circle of life activity. I don't know if you've ever done it where you finances, health,
The wheel of
the wheel.
happiness kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So I done that. And then at times, like I focused on my health. Like 2 years ago, I ran a marathon, lost 100 pounds, made a whole bunch of health changes, or work on my relationship with my wife and my kids. So, that's all part of that fire for me. Also being there when my kids need me or when my family needs me. I don't have to be accountable to anybody else. I have time freedom. I have location freedom. I have thought freedom, which is really important to me. Nobody tells me what to do. I'm the captain of my ship. It's also, the problem is mine if anything goes wrong, right? But all of those things are really important to me.
I think that's great. That really aligns with, Aline and myself, as host and co-host. That's really our goal, what we're striving for. It's not about the overall income or X amount of money you make, is really, so once you get over a certain level, what are you going to do with your time, money, relationship, health, and all that? Because the wheel of happiness is that's how I set up my personal annual or 5-year goals, not just money. It's business, personal development, health, leisure, and other friendship and all that, right? So I think it wasn't emphasized enough in the business world, because everyone's like, how many doors you have, how many assets you have out there, allocation, but someone could accumulate really fast, but could sacrifice on a lot of other aspects of life too, right? And a lot of times that breaks people and never come back to real estate or anything else. So that kind of leads into my next question for you is, what was your worst moment ever financially that you remember?
I would say that probably the worst moment had to do with flipping houses, because I was flipping like 3 properties at the same time, and I had like every line of credit used. Every dollar that I had was like going out to getting projects done. I was waiting for one house to sell in order to get everything done, and I really didn't want to be in that position again. That would probably have been my worst situation. And after that, I made a lot of changes to adjust for that. I've really focused on doing a portfolio second behind a bunch of properties to get a blanket line of credit. I've used different secured lines with mortgages so that every time I'm paying down a mortgage, it opens up a line. Like I made a whole bunch of changes after that because I learned from it. But that was probably my most stressful time. There are other times like dealing with some tenant situations and stuff like that. But I've learned that to give all those things away to other people and not do it myself. That's what I've learned. And that has helped me a lot. Now I have employees that do that work for me, and subcontractors and team members. So, it just depends on the type of job. I have an EA that helps me to do anything that I don't want to do, which is great, and I get to do some fun stuff. Like we're going to the Bahamas. I'm taking my oldest son's turning 18, and we're taking a trip to Machu Picchu together, just him and I.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to do a
father
hike.
And son's time.
Yeah. He turned 18, right? Like only turns 18 once. So I wanted to do something memorable with him. And those are all things that I can do because I've created the lifestyle to do it. I'm kind of doing to his schedule what makes sense for him to be able to do it rather than him having to do it to my schedule, right? Which is what would normally happen if I had 9-to-5 type job, right? And so that's what I find a lot. Like I have a lot of flexibility, and I made a lot of new friends. All the friends that you have when you're an employee, you don't have anymore because you're free, right? And so during the day, I'm going for lunches with other people. I'm learning a lot more about business from other groups. Like, the amount of learning that can happen is exponential for sure.
How's your kids? They've been watching you, leading by example. So how's their view on this whole real estate investing, and does this impact them?
Oh yeah. Well, they follow my social media stuff because I got a lot of like Instagram. And
I thought you were going to say they are managing your social media stuff.
No, I tried to get my youngest one to do it. He was not interested in it. And my older one is more into sports and stuff, but that's okay. But, one of the things my oldest one said to me is like, we were asking him, what do you want to do? And what do you want to save up for? And the first thing he said is he wants to save up for a rental property, not a property to live in, a rental property. I was like, yes,
we made it. All these 20 years of work.
And my younger, he has no interest in real estate, but he's interested in NFTs and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. And I'm like, awesome. And my youngest one, he comes out to the meetings now. So he actually he sits at the real estate meeting, but he's trying to talk to people about NFTs and crypto, people that do that there. And so he's talking to them while we're at that meeting. So it is really cool. I'm getting better at making sure that they understand how to do things. And I'm trying to be as open as possible. There's a lot of intergenerational planning that I'm working on as well.
I was going to ask that intergenerational plan. That's what kind of maybe look into trusts and how to make sure you give them enough, but not too much that you kind of spoil them and they just feel like they don't need to do anything. And that's not the fun of the life, right? You want to share a little bit about that kind of ballpark kind of the plan for that?
Yeah, there is a lot of things that you have to watch out for. Like, I was able to buy a car because I don't want my son driving my truck, first of all. And my wife doesn't want, SUV driven by him. So just bought a car and, here, drive this, right? And I guess one of the challenges with that is that what you do to one, you have to really think about what you're going to do for the other. And so I'm thinking now, like, I've got to think, how much should I spend on that car for him? And I'm going to do the same thing, exact same thing for the other one, and probably just add the inflation rate each year until when he purchases or needs the vehicle. And then I'll buy a car exactly the same amount. It's just like things like that. There's a lot of things that I want them to be able to do on their own too. And I don't want them handed to them. But at the same time, I want to give them some of the advantages that I didn't have. And that's part of the balance of things, right? Some people would say give them nothing until a certain time. I want them to be able to, like, my oldest son pays for his insurance, he pays for the car maintenance, he pays for the gas. If we put it in an account, that's what he's paid for, right? So those are things that I think add that level of responsibility, which is what I want to be able to see as well when it comes to giving things. But there's a lot of other pieces that I haven't talked about: family trusts, what that looks like, estate freezes. There's so many different levels. It's something that you have to talk with a number of professionals together to figure out what that looks like for you. Because if your wealth is in real estate or if it's in stocks, there's a very different approach to take. It's not always the same. And every country is different too, because of what's available to you in that country. So you have to be very careful when you're taking advice, what works and what doesn't. And for me, for example, I have a dual citizenship, right? I'm Canadian, but I'm also a Fijian. Right. I've got my Fijian citizenship. Right. So Fiji is tax haven. I'm doing nothing with it. Like, but I'm also invested in the US. Right. So I've got a US LP, US structure, and that's where I'm investing. And, that's something that I'm more focused on, but that adds to complexity to my estate. Right. Because you have to make sure that it doesn't get stuck up in the US system, that the funds aren't stuck down there. So there's a lot of different steps to it. But there are a lot of great groups out there that can help you. And I've gone to Tiger 21, and that's an interesting group. I'm part of the entrepreneur organization. I feel like that's a better group for me because they're still in growth mode. And that's where I feel like I'm at right now. I feel like I'm just getting started. So we'll see what happens in a few years.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize what Quentin just talked about for the last 1 hour.
It was like half an hour.
I'm throwing us. I'm just joking. It's very valuable information. And what the key takeaway for me in there is Quentin is trying to provide the resource for his kids to be able to grow, but not spoil them too much. So let them have the fun, but at the same time, give them abundance mindset as well. And Quentin's living that by example. No matter where Quentin was in 2004, where he is now, he's still trying to grow. Every time you learn more, you start to ask more questions. There's always, and I think that's a really true fun part of life, is just keep an opening new boxes of gift and new problems to solve. And I think that's what really keep like Quentin going, right? It's just like new problems to solve, and you get that sense of achievement. That's where the true happiness come from, right? Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I want to say too is all of these books that I wrote, I've written it for my kids. That's who I've written it for. Everybody else gets the benefit, but like I wanted to leave like breadcrumbs in the world so that like maybe in 10 years I'm not around, but they are interested in real estate investing. They have like the roadmap right here on being able to go and do that. And for me, that's a lot of the point too, right? Is being able to leave a positive effect in the world. I have a lot of people that have come up to me, like thank me for the books, thank me to when I do presentations around real estate. And I think that's part of life too. Like being able to be successful on the finance side is great, but you also want to have a successful impact on the world. We do a basket brigade, like we have different charities, Kiva, that we support, right? There's lots of different ways that we can make an effect in the world. And, it's just deciding to do that as well as the real estate. That's where that circle activity comes in a lot, right? Coming back, I do that every year. There's no time in your life that you're ever going to be balanced. Okay. There's no way that it's going to happen. But there are times when you are very out of balance. And when you look at that wheel and you're a one on something, you know you're out of balance, right? So you know that's an area in your life that you need to work on. And so that's something that I like to look at and do, those reflective activities.
Yeah, it's fantastic for your kids. I love that you said that you wrote those books for like a roadmap for them, because it's almost like a love letter to your kids, something to leave a legacy for them to follow in your footsteps. And it's not just following in your footsteps, but it's more about exposure, exposing them to what's out there, what's the possibilities, things that they could do to, help themselves out later on, regardless of what they decide to do.
Like, the thing is, I don't know anything about NFTs. I'm not an amazing stock investor. I'm just not. But if you ask me anything about real estate investing, I've got a strong opinion and I have an excellent track record that spans decades. So that's what I can offer them. And if they so choose at some time in the future, they can always pick it up. And every book has the dedication to them in it, right? All my books do. So, it's something that I think it became more and more important to me. Like, you're never going to make $1 million. Like, you're never going to get fired from books. Like, it's just not going to happen unless it's a bestseller and, you're the next Harry Potter. Sure. From these type of niche books, it's not going to happen. After one is like an expensive business card. 6 is a craziness.
It's not investment. It's really an expense, but it's in the way I think it help you articulate, help you leave a legacy, help you grow your brand, and all comes in one. And at this stage, that's what gives you the most happiness. And that's what you feel like that fulfills your fire. Am I correct kind of in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that helped me, like one of those pieces of the puzzle for me that make the most sense to continue to grow and do. And everybody has to find their own, what it is, right? At first, I was like the saver, right? Like, don't spend a lot. Yeah, and like all that stuff. And then I got smart and I just figured out, work on the other side. Yeah. Make more money.
Yeah. And like, I want to share this story for people who were at 2004 where Quentins were, where I was, a lot. I don't talk about a lot of this, but I was living in a room. I paid $600 per month up to 2019. And meanwhile, I own already 3 properties. And I was one of them that I rent, but then I already own 3 properties. And people around me look at me like, Cody, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I'm not crazy, because I'm trying to keep my debt low so I can buy more and the bank likes me, right? So sometimes you have to go through those phases. But why I want to emphasize on this is you can save more. And that's what a lot of people out there talk about on YouTube, whatever, because it's easy to talk about. By learning how to earn more income is going to speed up that process. And it's not just earning more income. How do you keep more? How do you use that money and make more money? And thanks for touching on that. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key to all of this. Taking your soldiers, which is your dollar bills, sending them out to capture more soldiers to bring back to you, right? That's what you want. And that's what we, as entrepreneurs and as business owners, as investors, that's what we do. And then scaling that is important, right? So using other people's money in order to provide them a service that is useful to them. So what Eileen will be doing is, you're a GP in your projects, right? Right. So you're going out and you're providing a service to the LPs because they want to have cash on cash return and some sort of IRR. And you're going to do the work to be able to make sure that they do that. You're providing a service. And you know what you're doing, and that is something that is valuable. And so by them giving you those monies, you're capturing them, bringing them to you because you know what to do with them, because you're going to make sure that you're going to turn them into more and then send them back to the people who gave them to you in the first place. And that's what we want to do in the type of businesses when we're solving a problem for somebody else, right? The problem that I solve is I like to help people make money. Right. Yes. And the more that we can solve that problem, the more opportunities we'll get to ourselves. Right.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a really great point to touch on. The goal or a mission of our podcast to really educate people who are high income earners they might be on their journey who are already there, want to get to the next level, but really give them the option and say, hey, learn all. We're here to educate you or create value. Take it. If you want, if you have the time and the energy to do it yourself, go do it yourself. But at the same time, we invite a lot of guests that has more experience. And if you really don't have the gig for it or the passion for it, you can also, pick your own people, do your own due diligence, and can still grow your wealth in this way as well. Right. So
Absolutely. And Eileen, I'm kind of curious on the GPLP side, what type of projects do you on that?
We focus primarily on like value add properties. So looking for ways to, increase it and improve the units inside, improve the neighborhoods, provide them a better, safer place to live. And then at the same time, everything like you had mentioned, providing opportunities to our investors as well, so that they can put their money into something that is tangible. We're hedging against inflation here in the US at the same time, and not just keeping it in the banks, because right now you're keeping it in the banks, you're losing the money for it. And so it's giving them an opportunity, looking for ways to partner with other people so that as a team, we can grow bigger and better faster, because that's what we've learned. It's all about the teamwork. It's all about a team sport in this atmosphere to be able to grow bigger so we can all leverage off each other's strengths and weaknesses and then achieve a financial goal that we're all looking to strive towards.
Absolutely. And do you do that in specific states?
Yeah, across the US. We focus on like the Sun Belt states, in Vegas, Carolinas, Texas.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of those things are important factors into the decisions that you go into in order to gain wealth and be able to help other people to do that. And that's what everybody wants. And Cody, you're doing the same thing, right?
yeah,
Like,
there's things I cannot talk about yet because it's in the brewing, but it will come out really soon. Like Aline knows about it, but we're creating something that we're following. Like Quentin definitely inspired us about that. There's something about GPLP coming, and we might be in Canada, might be in US, or who knows. We're really in the stage of exploring that. We have partners set up already, who has a good track record, just like Quentin. And so I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And see, that's all we want to do, right? Is we want to help people to be able to achieve their goals. And because of the expertise that you have, everybody has expertise, right? You have to utilize that expertise. And it's like why people are afraid of speaking. Public speaking, most people are afraid of public speaking, right? They would rather be on fire than public speak, right? But
the
really,
bad kind of fire, not the good type.
No, yeah, bad kind of fire, right? Yeah, they're not the good fire, yeah. But really, if you're that afraid of public speaking, you're not using a God-given gift, right? You are doing something that is only for yourself. That's what you're doing, because you're not willing to give that gift to other people, right? And so if you're good at something, you should be out there talking about it and sharing it with other people. And if you have a message, then people need to hear that message. It's the most important thing, right? Otherwise, why have those gifts? You're not using them if you're not out there sharing the message. So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
I love that a lot. I love that. I feel like we can chat for hours, but just to keep your time in check and our audience time in check, we're going to go for the lightning round. So we're going to have 5 questions. Are you ready for that?
I'm always ready. I was born ready, man.
Okay, I knew it. So what are the tools that you're using to track your finance for FIRE?
So I use a number of different tools, but mostly Excel. So I have a lot of graphs. I actually paid a CFO to come up with a tool that allows me to track out my wealth on the real estate portfolio side out to the next 20, 30, 40 years, reducing mortgages. I can play with interest rates and do stress testing on the portfolio. So I use a lot of those tools. So it's more than just Excel. It's Excel with like CFOs have helped me to be able to come up with the tools. And I do a quarterly plan, and I do 10-year plans, and I do 3-year plans. So my 10-year goals feed my 3-year goals, feed my quarterly plan. I do not do annual planning. So that's another tool that I use to help me to achieve my goals. And another tool is an accountability partner. I call the same guy that I've been calling for like years and years. And we just tell each other what our goals are each week. And if you didn't achieve it, you sound like a fool if you keep saying that over and over again. So you work to get it done.
Manifesting. That's the word for it, right? That's the book, The Secret. manifesting.
Well, it's doing too, right? So
Yeah.
like I tell them, and then I go and do it. I have a weekly plan beside my desk that I actually write in, and I have my quarterly plan up on my desk as well.
Love it. So here's a curveball for you. If you have to start all over, let's say you lose everything right now, but you have
Yeah.
the knowledge. If you have to start all over again with $500,000, $500,000, I know it's that easy for you. What would you do today?
500K is more than I need. I don't need that much. I just need my mouth and my head, and I'm good. I don't need 500,000. What I need is to find opportunities and be able to share my what I know and be able to apply that. You cannot take away my wealth from me ever again, because I have it here in my head, right? I've got this and this. I don't need your 500K, man. I can get it done, and I can build it different, better. If I were to do it again, I would do the same thing, just slightly different. I'd probably take a higher percentage of the GP. I'd probably have a larger asset management fee, probably a acquisition fee. That's a little different. So there's some things that I would perhaps change, but I don't need your money. I'll just do it again.
Yeah, but what they say, it's like the education is your foundation, your building blocks to do whatever. You can lose everything in life, but if you have your foundation, if you've built a solid foundation through education, networking and all that stuff, you're going to be able to build anything you want, but you have to have that strong foundation first.
Absolutely. The only thing I want is my wife and my kids. That's it. If I have those, that's it. You can have everything else. I'll just start it again. It's no problem. If I had to go to a different country, start it again, no problem.
And if you are a podcast host, who would you interview?
Ooh, who would I interview? There's a lot of people that I would love to interview.
Give us the top three.
Dan Sullivan. Like that man is a genius, like entrepreneurial genius, like just an amazing guy. Another one that I would want to, just because he inspires me a lot, is Darren Hardy. Has a lot of positive messages. I listen to his message every morning, right? Like he's got a really good person to listen to and get inspired by. And probably there would be an economist in there, because I'm always interested in picking economists' brains. Probably Benjamin Tall would be somebody that I would love
from CIBC.
Yeah, from CIBC. Yeah. I'd love to interview him. I think that would be like, I've got more, but top three, that would definitely be up there.
Got it.
Branson, definitely. Sorry, that's a fourth. Richard Branson.
Richard Branson, yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of sound and look and feel like him.
Woo! Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just lots of passion. And I don't
own an island. I'm from an island.
Yeah, that's totally great. So what are some charities? I know we talk about, there's like Basket Brigade and all that. What are some charities you would consider donating for good cause? Because part of this podcast, once we start monetizing this, part of our profits goes towards charities. So we're really collecting local charities or charities international of good cause, and we're trying to collect those lists to donate to.
I love Kiva. I think Kiva is an amazing way to and it's not necessarily giving, it's loans. Right. And they're all around the world. You can give to different places. I love to give back to the South Pacific. So Fiji, Samoa, all of that. There's a large need for sure. So I'm definitely a big believer in Kiva if you're looking internationally. A lot of the Rotary clubs are good locally. I like to see boots on the ground stuff. I don't like big organizations. The way that you should treat a dollar that you give to somebody is the same way that you should treat a dollar in your business. It's exactly the same thing. You should do the due diligence and how they're using that money, make sure that it's used effectively, and that's who you donate to, right? That to me is the key. And that's why I like the local grassroots type of stuff, where the people are taking the money and it's going directly to the charity, and they're volunteering their time in between, right? That's the best when you can get that done.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. How can our listeners find you?
You can go to my Linktree at QManREI, linktree.com/QManREI or something like that. I don't know. You'll put it in the show notes, I hope.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, like I'm on Instagram and all of those social media, but that Linktree is the best because it has like all my books and all that other stuff in there. And I'm never going to get rich from those books. I'm already fine from all the other stuff that I do. So if you want to get in touch with me, get in touch with Cody and he'll connect you. That'll work too.
Really, thanks a lot for your time. One last advice. If you can use one sentence or just one paragraph, what are the advice you want to leave for our listeners who are high income earners, might be at the place where they're kind of tiring from all the commuting, they're working long hours, they make great money, but they feel like they're stuck. They have a lot of expense. What would you tell them?
You can't make a change if you do the same thing every day. You have to do something different to make a change. So if that's what you want, and if you want to change, then you've got to do something different. Take action, buy a property, invest in something, be a partner in somebody's investment, do something. But whatever it is, make a change, because that's the only way. Otherwise, it's what is that? Expecting different results by doing the same things is insanity.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expect different results.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there all our audience have it. Thanks a lot for Quentin's time. It was a pleasure chatting with you in all kinds of aspects of the wheels of happiness. And I think people at different level can all relate to this conversation. So really, we're really grateful about this.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck with the podcast and everything, and have fun with it. I'm sure it'll turn out awesome. I think I'd rather have Eileen do the introductions rather than Cody. I'm sorry, but whatever. Just my feedback.
We'll work on it. We'll work on that.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay. Take care.
All the links mentioned in this episode are included in the show notes. And if you love this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple iTunes. The link is also included in the show notes. And we would really appreciate your help in spreading the word to more high income earners on how they too can maximize both their time and money.
Also, if you still haven't joined our High Income Earners Facebook group, you are missing out on High Income Earners community, where we help each other reach our own version of FIRE.